Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this month for our Be Red Cross Ready. This month, we're going to be talking about being Red Cross ready for floods. Today, I have Heather Bowman, and Heather has joined the American Red Cross in 2016 as a disaster program specialist. She became the community preparedness manager for the Southeastern Pennsylvania region in 2018. Heather has a passion for helping others and oversees several youth programs, adult programs, and sound the alarm programs, which help community members learn about fire safety. Heather has deployed to over 15 disasters across the country to help families and communities recover. Heather is completing grad school where she was majoring in data analytics, and she enjoys being outside with her partner, Alan, and German Shepherd, Berlin. Heather, I'm going to start the presentation and let you take it from here.
Thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate being here. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to learn how to stay safe and prepare for floods. So we'll start off talking a little bit about floods, then we're going to go into making a kit to get a plan and be informed, and then we're going to continue back into floods, just so that everybody can ensure that they stay safe. All right, so flooding occurs when water overflows into land that is normally dry. There are some parts of the United States and territories that nearly every day there's some sort of threat of floods. Floods are always dangerous to anyone and anything in their paths. So floods can be triggered by a number of different ways. Hurricanes can bring heavy rains and storm surges. Rapidly melting snow can overwhelm rivers and creeks. And there can be extended periods of rain or sudden intense rainfalls. And another way is that dams or levees can fail. Once again, rain can also result when rain, snow melt, or storm runoff overwhelms the structures built to contain or control the large volume of water. So when that happens, obviously rain or water has to go somewhere, and so it tends to begin to flood. Once again, it's always dangerous for people, animals, and properties. Great, next slide, please. So we have a couple of different alerts that I'd like to go through with you, just to make sure that you are that you understand which one, when folks talk about these different alerts, what they actually mean. So a flood watch. Can you click, please? Great. So a flood watch, what that means is that a flood is possible, right? So when you hear flood watch happening, you really need to make sure that you are paying attention to what the local authorities are saying. So NOAA radio or your local authorities of what they're telling you that you might need to do. So stay tuned for updates. Make sure that you're constantly listening for updates and be prepared to act. So just be ready just in case. Now we're going to talk about flood warnings. So a flood warning means that flooding is already happening or will happen soon, and that you should really take immediate precautions. So right now, take action, move to higher ground. Once again, a flood warning is it's occurring or it's going to occur. Take action, move to higher ground. Now we're going to talk about flash flood warnings. Once again, the same thing. A flash flood warning means that the flooding has occurred or is going to occur very, very soon. So once again, you take action and you move to higher ground. And I'll talk about in a couple of slides what exactly that means to take action. Next slide, please. So flooding is a risk. It's a risk because it can happen so quickly. There are risks of drowning, of damage to the land around you, to buildings, and of course other properties. Flooding can contaminate water, and there's the risk of mold that happens with flooding. So it's really important. Just 6 inches of fast moving water can knock down an adult. That's just 6 inches. Okay, 12 inches can sweep away most cars, right? So it's really important that when you see water rising, that you don't wait. You don't say, oh, I can walk through it, or I'll just wade through it, because a lot of times you waited too long. So make sure that you have a plan. And what we'll do is we're going to go through what to expect. So next slide, please. All right, so we're going to talk about now is planning and getting prepared for flooding. So we're going to, 3 things, break it down. Get a kit, make a plan, and be informed, stay informed, right? So things that you need in a kit, right? Items to secure your home, rain gear, evacuation items, and we're going to talk about those evacuation items in the next slide. Tailor your plan to evacuation routes and household communication plans. And then stay informed. Listen for updates and special instructions. So next slide, please. So get a kit. So it's really important that you and your household have a kit to be prepared for different disasters. And a flood is a disaster that you need to be prepared for. So there should be a couple of different kits. There should be a household kit, and they should have enough supplies in that household kit for at least 3 days. They say 2 weeks is better, but at least 3 days is pretty important. Make sure that you also have another kit that is like a go bag, like a grab and go kind of kit, a mobile version of your kit. Supplies for, once again, 3 days. In those go kits or go bags are if you need to evacuate quickly, you can grab and go. In both kits, your household kit and your grab and go kit, you should have supplies for each member of the household, including pets, and they should be customized for personal needs of each person in your family or in your household, and also for different disasters. So once again, if we're talking about flooding, just make sure that your kit has items in there specifically for flooding, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. So next slide, please. So in essentials to have in your kit, you should have at least 1 gallon per day per person of clean water. And once again, don't forget your pets, because your pets need clean water as well. You should have a first aid kit. You should have non-perishable food. Now, on the slide, there's non-perishable food that is in a can, and it looks like the can has a pop lid to it. Just remember that in your kit, if you don't have a pop lid, that you do need a can opener so you can get into your food. Other things that you should have is a radio that is battery operated, and also flashlights. My recommendation is to have extra batteries and not to put the batteries in those units to store, because something could happen and they could turn on and then drain the batteries. So my suggestion is to have extra batteries and have it with the flashlight or the radio, for example. If you have a radio that is a crank radio or a crank flashlight, which is great, you could use those as well. The other thing I suggest is medication. You should have every medicine that folks in your household they use. It should be in your kit. Now, I know what you're saying. How can I have medicine that I use every day in my kit? So here is just another resource for you, or something else you can do instead of actually having the medicine. You can have a medicine empty bottle in your kit. And in that bottle, you should have a list of everybody in your household, right? What medicine they take, the dose, your insurance company, and where you go to get your medicine. That way, if that's in your grab and go kit, for example, if you just grab it and you run to a Red Cross shelter, for example, you can pull that pill bottle out, the empty one, and open the piece of paper and say to health services at the Red Cross shelter, hey, we didn't have enough time to grab our medicine, but here's all the information of what we take, every single member in the household. And the health services folks will help you to get that medicine refilled, so which is great. All right, next slide, please. Once again, I said to customize your kit. So add, add different things. Health and medical needs. Once again, if somebody in the household has specific health or medical needs, make sure that there's some supplies in there ready for them. Pets and service animals. Once again, make sure that you are preparing your kits for your pets or health or service animals to make sure that they're going to be taken care of as well. Items that bring you comfort and stress. So for example, if you have to evacuate really quickly and go to a Red Cross shelter, it's important to have something to keep your mind away from the stress that's going on, and for your family as well, something that's that can really alleviate that stress for at least a little bit, right? So it could be a book, could be games, playing cards, photos, something just to help get your mind off of what is going on right at that moment. And once again, any kind of disaster come in your location, we're talking about flooding. So specific things that would be common to a flood would be, if you can get a raincoat, that would be fantastic. Extra set of boots, or just boots in general. Some rope would be very helpful. If you have an infant at home, having extra baby supplies. Extra car keys or house keys, just different things that you might need. A really good resource, you could go to redcross.org/prepare, and there's a list that you can print off, or you can at least look on your screen that has some suggestions of what to put in your kit. So that is quite helpful. Next slide, please. Great. So once again, it's really important to have these grab and go kits. We talked about having a specific household kit that would stay in the house, that would have things ready to go if you could not leave your home, right? It would have, enough food, fresh water, and just different things, fresh food, for example, non-perishable food, to have and to keep the household safe until help can arrive. With your grab and go kit, if you could have one at the house, you can grab and go, that's fine, in your vehicle, and also at work, right? So just some things to use if you are out and you are get stranded because of a flood. It's very, very important just to have, a couple things. And it's important as well, if you are in the side of the country that has, 4 different seasons. We are in the fall right now, headed into winter. And if you are like me, I'm in the Northeast Pennsylvania, snow is going to come very soon. So it's time for me to go to my vehicle and take out revamp my kit in my car and start putting in those, that shovel I have, that small shovel, a couple of, pairs of mittens, extra socks, things that will help just in case something were to happen when I'm in the vehicle. All right, next slide, please. The next thing to do, so we've gotten get a kit, now we're going to talk about make a plan. So when you're making a plan with your household of what to do if a disaster strikes, right? Talk about, okay, so for example, with a flood, our town floods. Actually, my town does flood. I'm up on a hill, so I'm okay, but my town does flood quite a bit. And so what are the things to consider if the town were to flood and I couldn't leave the home? I couldn't leave my home. I want to make sure I've got fresh water, right? But, making a plan. Well, what am I going to do with my partner? Maybe he's out working and he can't get home. What are our plans? What are we going to do if we were flooded in, or if I was flooded in and he wasn't? Talk about and really plan members of the household who travel. What happens if somebody in the household travels to a flood prone area? What are they going to do? Where are they going to go to be safe? Just things to talk about before somebody goes. Also, when somebody in the household does go and travel, what happens if back home there's a flood? What is the plan? Where are you going to go? How are you going to make sure that everybody in the household is safe? What happens if cell phone service dies, or you don't have power anymore and you run out of batteries with your phone? What are you going to do? There are some things to plan ahead for, just in case. And once again, make a plan for household members who may have access or functional needs. Let's say if you live with an elderly person, what's the plan if you are away? Maybe you're just away for the day and there was a freak flood that happened and you can't get home to your elderly family member. Do you have neighbors that can come and help? These are plans that you should have put into place beforehand, just in case. And once again, pets and service animals. What happens if you're away for a couple hours and you have your dog left at home and something were to happen? Can your neighbors come in and assist? All right, next slide, please. Okay, so we talked about different things to make a plan and what to do. Now we're going to talk about I had mentioned before that if cell phone service were to die, for example, or if your cell phone were to run out of batteries, what to do. So what is really important is to make sure that you are able to communicate with somebody that's outside of your potential disaster zone, if you will. So make sure that you remember telephone numbers. So I remember telephone numbers of when I was a kid growing up, because we didn't have cell phones. But now if I were to to give a telephone number of a friend of mine nowadays, it's all saved into my phone. So I don't know cell phones, and that could be a potential problem if something were to happen to my phone. So it's important to at least memorize a couple of different telephone numbers in your phone. That way, if you are in some sort of disaster-prone area or disaster area, you can reach out to other people outside of that area to let them know that you're safe, and hopefully they can pass that message on. Other things that you should plan for is, what is your evacuation route? There should be a couple of different evacuation routes because if there are flooding, some of the roads could very well be flooded. So it's important to have a couple of different routes on hand, right? Where are you going to meet? So let's say that the family, it's a weekday, the family's separated, some folks are at school, some people are at work. People are separated. Where are you all going to meet if there was some sort of flood and you weren't able to get back home? Where's your meeting place? This is something that you should all discuss. Once again, I talked about how you're going to communicate. And do you have records of important documents, perhaps on your phone or saved somewhere, just in case? Now, the really important thing is that if there is some sort of disaster, a flood, and you can't get home, where are you going to stay? Do you have accommodations already pre-planned just in case? Can you stay with friends and relatives that are outside of your specific community that could be flooded? That's very important. Or do you know where the closest Red Cross shelter is? That's important to know as well. And once again, we talked about your home kit and sheltering in place. Sheltering in place, if the authorities say so, that is a very important thing to do. And you should listen to the authorities if they say shelter in place. And you should be ready to shelter in place by having that home kit already ready to go. And it's really important to make sure that you practice what you plan. Make sure everybody in the household knows how to practice. All right. And so the next slide is communication after a disaster. Right, so there are, once again, on redcross.org/prepare, there is some cards that you can print out. These are the communication cards. These are just different disaster cards that have the option to write down phone numbers on it, addresses, just in case. So when my grandmother, when she was the starting stages of Alzheimer's, I actually printed off these cards and put cards in her different jackets and her purse and her wallet in different places. So if something were to happen, and if somebody did stop her to try and help, that that information would be readily accessible for folks. Okay, the next thing is to be informed, right? Be informed where you're getting your information from. Make sure that any information that you get about about where to go, what to do in a flood, that you're getting it from a reputable source, right? Make sure that you're either paying attention to a radio station that is the local radio station and the authorities are telling you what to do. Listen to NOAA weather station to listen to any updates. All right, so once again, understand those weather alerts that we went over. Is very important, and follow instructions from the authorities, which is really, really important. It's also important to make sure that you know your neighbors, because a lot of times your neighbors could be the ones that know what to do. Especially for me, I haven't lived in this town for very long, so I really do rely on my neighbors to let me know what the trends are and where to go just in case. And it's, once again, pretty important to know what to do when you're traveling. So that's another big thing, and we talked about that already. All right, so the next slide, when a flood is predicted. So we have gone through a little bit about flooding, then we went to the get a kit, make a plan, be informed, and now we're going to finish off with a little bit more information about flood specific. All right, so when a flood is predicted to happen, you're going to be prepared to evacuate. You've made your kit, so you have a grab and go kit ready on hand. You know where your escape routes are because you've talked about that, and you know where you're going to go because you've already planned that, and everybody in the household knows this information, right? Once again, you're going to make sure your disaster kit is ready to go. You're going to secure important documents, and you're going to monitor the local news and NOAA radio station because they are going to tell you what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to go. If they say evacuate, then it's time to evacuate. All right, so the next slide talks about during a flood. So during a flood, it's really important that your first priority should be get to higher ground. You don't want to go to lower ground. Obviously, you want to get to higher ground. You want to stay away from underpasses, dips, low spots, canyons, just different water banks, things like that could very well flood quickly. You want to stay away. Do not walk through flood water, right? We talked about that. 6 inches, and you could be knocked over, an adult could be knocked over. 12 inches and a car could be swept away. Don't drive through flooded areas. I like to say, turn around, don't drown, right? So if you see water, don't drive through it. Turn around, find another area. It's very, very important to make sure that you are not trying to walk through or drive through flooded waters. It's important to avoid these floodwaters and don't let children play around or near the floodwaters. Once again, it could be contaminated with sewage or chemicals, but it also could be very quick. It could look like it's not, but it could be very fast moving and, could be dangerous for children. All right, the next one, after a flood. So when there's a flood that has happened, you have made a plan of who you're going to contact outside of your, outside of your community that's flooded, to make sure that you're letting them know that they are the spokesperson for you and that they are the ones that you are communicating to say that you are safe. And then they can pass that message on. Perhaps they can do a Facebook message. Perhaps they know other people in your family that they can say, hey, everything's good. This is where they are. They're safe. Watch for post-flood hazards. Really important that you're watching for that. Another thing is make sure that water is safe. That's why it's so important to have in your kit, to have have enough water, fresh, safe water for everybody in the household, including pets, because after a flood, water could just not be okay to drink. It could be contaminated, so it's very, very important to make sure that that you're drinking safe water and you have safe water to drink. Take care of yourself and your household and pets, right? Check the refrigerator. There could be food spoilage that has happened. If in doubt, just throw it out. There's no point in keeping any kind of food that could be compromised. And I'm saying check your refrigerator, because in a flood, a lot of times power does go out. So it's important to be checking your refrigerator. Right, make sure that you're paying attention to how other folks in your household are dealing with stress. It could be a very stressful time, and just making sure that everybody is emotionally okay, not just physically, but emotionally okay as well. Right, so other things that you should really do is stay out of any building that has water around it. The building could be compromised, right? When inside your home, don't walk across any sagging floors that could collapse. Once again, something, it could be jeopardized. Yeah, so make sure you know where any kind of emergency shut-off valves are in your home. That way, before a flood, if you have time, you can turn those different emergency signals off, or emergency resources off for you. All right, so the next slide, steps to recover. So what you're going to do is you're going to keep away from loose or downed power lines. That's really important to just stay away. You don't know if they're live. It's best that you stay away. Wear protective gear when you're in your home trying to muck out your home. Make sure that you've got protective gloves, face masks, things that will protect you from anything. Use flashlights, no open flames, right? And if you smell gas at all in your home, make sure that you are leaving right away. Make sure once again that you are watching any kind of tree limbs that could be down, or just anything like that. If you're, I don't know about you, but my oh gosh, I just forgot the name. My breaker box is actually in the basement, and if the basement flooded, that is a concern. So I know what to do that before, if they start talking about flooding and perhaps it starts to flood in the basement, I need to go down there right away and just turn off the breakers. So that's important to do as well. So protect your home now for the future, right? So if you can, if you're in a flood prone area, make sure that your furnace is raised, that your hot water heater is raised as well. Your electrical panel, it is higher up on the ground, so it's not really low to the ground. Make sure it's higher up. Usually they are higher up. I live in a very old house, so a really important thing is that an undamaged water heater may be your best source of water after a flood. So just make sure that you think of that, right? And once again, installing check valves in plumbing to prevent flood waters from backing into the drainage system or back into your system is important. Seal your basement if you can with some sort of waterproofing component, and very important, learn to how to shut off gas mains in your home beforehand. If you can, buying flood insurance is important, but a lot of times people can't do that. But just make sure that you check your policy just to make sure. And if you rent, make sure that you check your renter's policy as well. And the last thing that I would suggest is for free, you can download, different Red Cross emergency apps that can help you as well. So we went through some flooding, what to do. We went through getting a kit, making a plan, being informed, and where to go to get some extra resources. You can always go to redcross.org/prepare, and you can get a free list of what to put in your household kits. And there's a whole bunch of other information there for you, once again, for free. So I just want to thank everyone for being with me today and talking about floods and how to stay safe. So I hope everyone has a great day.